welcome back to TF1C, the Formula 1 chat. It's time to review the Italian Grand Prix, and what an eventful race it was. I didn't think we were going to see much action until the final laps, and now we have controversy to discuss in what was quite the formality, I guess you could describe it as a race. But as always, we'll run through all of the sessions, then look at the championships and stuff. So should we start with qualifying? Well, actually, we should probably start with grid penalty, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Because I think it's an interesting discussion. I think it needs to be something that needs to be talked about. Obviously, there was a weird situation here and at Spa 2 weeks ago, where you have just like all of the drivers pretty much taking a grid penalty. So it's not much of a penalty. Now, what would you kind of suggest? Do you think it's a problem, and what would you suggest to try and fix it?
I don't think it's a problem. I think if all the drivers want to take grid penalties, if most of the drivers want to take grid penalties on the same weekend, and that's their choice. You know, if you're a Williams and you're a backmarker team, and you choose to take, and all the fast teams above you take grid penalties, if you choose to take grid penalties, that's your fault.
Yeah.
You should try. If you want to take advantage of it, then don't take grid penalties. That's up to you.
Yeah, I agree with the sense that it's not a problem, but not for the reason you mentioned. I think the issue is they've not given enough components this season, considering there's such a change in regulations.
Yeah.
We've seen a large amount of engine failures because of the regulation change.
I mean, we saw around 3 this weekend.
But I believe they're increasing the number of components you can take for next season. So I think we'll go back to how it was before, where if a driver is involved in a particularly high amount of shunts, then we will see drivers having to take penalties, but it won't be as frequent as we've seen this campaign. Because I do agree, it is a bit of a joke when you see 7 drivers lining up, like barely being part of qualifying. So we had Lewis Hamilton back of the grid, Carlos Sainz back of the grid, Yuki Tsunoda back of the grid. Max took a 5th place, Checo took a 10th place.
Bottas to the back of the grid.
Bottas took a 15th place, not a back of the grid.
Which ended up at the back of the grid anyway.
Yeah, and then who was last?
Bottas started last.
No, Schumacher. Didn't he take a penalty?
Probably.
Yeah, Mick took a 15th place, and ended up 3 places higher. Which is why it doesn't make any sense. Because I saw I can't think of his name now. The guy who does like the F1 TV technical stuff was trying to explain it by doing the addition and stuff. And it's like 20 add 15 equals 17. Because he was 20th, they added on 15 places and he ended up 17th. Which is why I do think there are some potential problems in the penalty system, but it only really occurs when you have this ridiculous number of penalties. Well, not this season, it hasn't, but I do think that they will be ironed out for next campaign, which isn't a problem.
Also, I guess just before we'll get into the actual we'll get into the qualifying timing standings, But I see we had an addition to the grid for this weekend. Nick de Vries racing Alexander Albon.
Which I think is our fault. My fault mainly. I said Alex Albon was going to win it. If you saw Friday's predictions, I said Albon's going to win it, and clearly didn't happen. Didn't even race. But
I mean, De Vries, obviously we'll get onto it later, but what a drive from him. But we hope to see Alex back in the car for Singapore.
I think it's probably easier if we run through the drivers and talk about how they performed in quality and the race.
Do that then.
Okay, so we'll do it in race order.
Okay.
So, Max Verstappen, race winner.
Waltz the thing.
What? Quali, though, didn't have the same pace as Charles Leclerc. And Leclerc didn't even have a toe, which is interesting.
I think Leclerc just smashed together a good lap.
Home race for Ferrari. Yeah, it's the same as Max at Zandvoort. We didn't think the Red Bull had an amazing package there.
Despite the whole safety car, should we got restart, should we not? Does not matter. Max Verstappen on the medium held an 18-second gap over Charles Leclerc on the soft. Now that says it all. No safety car controls the bollocks. Max Verstappen was leading by 17, 18 seconds for the majority of the race, and that is case closed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this kind of goes into Leclerc as well. P2, P1 in quali drops obviously to P2 though. Max coming from 6th.
Leclerc did what he could.
Leclerc should have done more.
Ferrari weren't beaten on strategy. Ferrari weren't beaten on bad luck. They were beaten on pure out and out pace.
And as you say,
and Red Bull waltz.
The kick-off from Ferrari and the fans, and not only at the circuit but online as well. I mean, the booing from the Tifosi was laughable, salty, but it's just It's another one. It's like Abu Dhabi last year, where I think Abu Dhabi evidently they got wrong, but I thought they completely nailed this. But there's always going to be someone upset.
Yeah.
It's like when we talk about VAR in football. Yes, this decision makes Ferrari fans upset and the casuals that just want to see battling.
I don't know what anyone else was expecting.
Yeah.
Because
it's
unlike
the rub of the green,
Abu Dhabi, all the other drivers that were in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, they all caught up as well. Whereas what we had at Monza today was we had Verstappen, then 2 lap cars, then Leclerc. That was it. Russell was still getting round to the safety cars in 3rd.
So we couldn't have gone even if they decided to end the safety car. The argument was they should have red flagged it, but I don't see on what grounds that the red flag should come out.
There was no vehicle. They didn't need to bring up any vehicles.
Well, they did eventually bring on.
Well, no, that was on the track, though, was it? That was just on the grass in 3rd.
I still think.
And obviously there was no barrier repair.
Yeah, it's just a weird incident where Daniel Ricciardo had parked it in perhaps the one place you can't retrieve a car very easily.
So he couldn't do anything about it. He lost the engine like that.
You can still try and get around the corner. Make it easy for them to wheel it down the escape road.
It depends who's behind him, because he's not going to be. He doesn't be sat on an apex when he's lost the engine.
You know what I reckon? I reckon it's probably a conspiracy that Daniel Ricciardo, ex-Red Bull,
I think it's actually there.
pulled up to make sure Max won when he had a 17-second advantage. I reckon that was it.
Go look at Daniel's car and nothing wrong with it.
No, nothing at all. Smoke was fake. He had a flare.
Yeah. Oh, he smashed it.
And then 3rd place, George Russell.
Does what he does, doesn't he?
It's what he does, but I mean, you can criticise him for not making overtakes, but equally, he stays out of trouble.
He's there to.
He stays out of trouble. He doesn't have no pace or anything like that. It's not like he's defending the whole time. If he was, that would arguably more impressive. But he has got good pace. That Merc just can't really get close to the Ferrari or the Red Bull. He's doing brilliantly to consistently be ahead of Sainz and Perez, and more importantly, Lewis Hamilton, whose result looks a little better because of the safety car situation, because all the gaps are so much closer, obviously. But Sainz 4th. A fine weekend for him, especially considering the grid penalty.
Good drive.
I think he's finished a place ahead of Lewis, and it makes it look like they cut through the same way. But Sainz cut through the grid like a hot knife through butter. Hamilton had a lot more of an issue cutting through the order.
Hamilton did his by the overcut, whereas Sainz did his on-track pace.
Yeah, Sainz blasted past everyone. Even that train of 5, I thought maybe he'd get stuck behind it because they're all just DRSing. No issue for Carlos. Hamilton, though, had to wait until they were either alone or, as you say, they'd already pitted and came out behind him. That's when he was able to make the most of that. Checo Perez, P6.
Again,
he had incredible pace on the hards, but I do feel Red Bull somewhat cocked him.
It was very early in the hard. They must have seen something that either the hards weren't going to make it to the end or something was wrong, because then they pitted him for the softs with 10 laps to go.
I think he wasn't making much progress. It makes sense. I think Checo fans are annoyed. I think they're right to be annoyed because he couldn't go for a personally, he couldn't attack the likes of Hamilton. Maybe the alternative strategy he would have been ahead of Hamilton, but maybe they'd have squabbled and cost themselves getting forward. Who knows? I think not pitting him I think pitting him was fine. It's not great for him, but for Red Bull, it's exactly what they need. He got 6th. Realistically, with Max winning pretty much every race at the moment, it's not going to be too much of a problem.
No,
the constructors, so they've just got to keep doing this. Yeah. Well, they didn't, did they? They gained on Ferrari this weekend. I'm fairly sure. Sainz and Leclerc got 30, and then Max and Perez got 33. So it's a gain of 3. They didn't need to risk Perez fighting and ending up lower, and then Ferrari gaining. So I don't think it's a problem really. Lando then 7th. This could have been a really, really solid 7-8 for McLaren. Of course, we mentioned Ricciardo's issue.
I do think Lando's start completely fucked him.
Yeah, but equally, is that down to him? You would imagine so. I've not heard anything that he had a clutch issue or anything.
But I think we know Lando Norris. If he gets a good launch there, he can put Russell and Leclerc under pressure.
Yeah, so maybe we could have been looking at a Lando Norris podium or P4. Yeah. Maybe Sainz wouldn't have been able to catch him, but
even just ahead of Hamilton.
The pace from there didn't look too strong. No. He did manage to lose the likes of Gasly and De Vries, but that was helped by the fact that Ricciardo did let him pass. Don't really get Ricciardo fans moaning at that. Lando was on the softs. What do you want you want them to fight and then they both crash and lose out to Gasly? It just seems so... I think Ricciardo fans at the moment are just a little bit... They're obviously more than a little bit angry at McLaren, so anything they do now, which benefits Lando and doesn't benefit Ricciardo, is like a sin. But
makes sense. I mean, Lando's been there for a long time. Ricciardo's only got a couple of races left.
There's not much point prioritising Ricciardo. Like they're still going to obviously try and give him as high up the grid as possible, but they're going to give Lando, especially when he's on an opposing strategy.
Ricciardo's on for a great result today. But
yeah, a 7-8 would have been a fantastic result. So, 8th and 9th then, Gasly, P8 and Nick de Vries, P9.
Gasly, solid drive at AlphaTauri Grand Prix, but the big 12 point Nick de Vries.
Yeah, we'll talk about Gasly because I think it was harsh to kind of move on from him quickly. I've not been impressed by Pierre this year, but today he really impressed me. I know obviously he was helped out by starting, P5 on the grid? Yeah, it was P5, wasn't it? Or was Alonso 5th? He was either 5th or 6th on the grid, which helps, but you still got to see out the points. I think he was under pressure from De Vries for a while, but he managed to just about stay ahead. So he dealt well under the pressure. He couldn't quite fight with the McLarens, but the pace deficit there does seem to be a thing. And to be fair, he stayed ahead of Lando Norris for a while. And we know how good a driver Lando Norris is. But then, P9, Nick de Vries.
Great drive.
What a drive. Easily drive. I mean, he won driver of the day. He deserved driver of the day. It was a significant performance from him in that I think he deserves that Williams seat.
Next, 100%.
I know he obviously got a little bit of the rub of the green in the fact that the grid penalties applied dropped him lower.
He still qualified P13.
Well, regardless of that, even with the penalties, Nick not only out-qualified Latifi, but there's no saying that Latifi shouldn't have been up there as well. Latifi started 10th. There's barely a difference there. I know Nick was helped out by the likes of Alonso, but Latifi finished 15th in the end. Only Magnussen was behind him with the classified runners. Like I just can't understand how on earth he could be in F1 next season. Nick de Vries has done more than enough to prove that he deserves that Williams seat.
Yeah,
and I think that'd be a very interesting prospect. De Vries and Albon together at Williams. It's a much better combination, I'd argue, than Albon and Latifi. Running out the points though, Zhou Guanyu. He's someone who has had some hard luck this season.
Very much so. Reliability that from him.
Yeah, and I know obviously Bottas has outperformed him at least at the start of the season, and has had grid penalties recently, but recently he's not been as quick. I know he's had penalties and stuff, but equally, Zhou's just been consistent and unfortunate not to score points. I have to say that Alfa Romeo at the moment looks completely horseshit.
It doesn't look great, and he's doing a superb job really. Zhou.
Speaking of a car that has, to be fair, the Alpines look good recently, but look terrible around here.
Yeah.
Esteban Ocon, P11. Alonso not classified, of course. He came into the pits, retired the car. Yeah. Seemed to be struggling with some kind of issue deploying the ERS, I think it was, and overheating. Many issues.
Which obviously then meant that everything just was broken.
Yeah, he was our second retirement after Seb. But Alpine, no real pace around here. No. So an 11-19, it's not bad, but it's not great either.
No.
We'll talk about the Astons next. 18 and 20 for them.
Double DNF. Yeah,
it's not good, is it?
Vettel's last race in Europe. He would have
his last race around Monza, where obviously he's had some brilliant moments over the years. This is where he took his first win in 2006, I believe.
Yeah.
So either 06 or 07.
But Vettel's was a problem. Stroll had some engine issue. I don't know.
Yeah, but the Aston's just not really competitive this year. They better fix up, because if not, Alonso is going to kick off next year. He's going to be. Alonso's hard to deal with in the best of times, but if you're going to give him a terrible car, he'll kick off more. Haas then 12-16.
After qualifying 19-20, I think they'll take a 12-16.
Yeah, and obviously they were pushed up through the order with the penalties and stuff.
It wasn't a great weekend for Haas.
Haas have not had pace in a while now, and I don't really know what changes for them next season. K-Mag's still going to be there, and he's been unimpressive. I mean, the last time I remember seeing K-Mag was France, when him and Mick collided.
Yeah.
I've genuinely not seen the Haas since then. So, yeah, I think, how do you replace Mick Like, who do you bring in? I don't think they can afford Ricciardo. It looks like he's going to become the Merc reserve. I think Dragovic would be a perfect fit, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. It looks like they're going to go get Giovinazzi. Does that solve any of the issues they have? No. Gio is crap. He's never been... no disrespect to him, but...
He's never been great.
He's never been good enough in F1. And I know in FE he's been unimpressive, and I know that Dragon car has many issues, but... I mean, you're getting schooled by Sergio Sette Camara in the same machinery. And yes, he's had more experience in that car,
He's
but...
got so much better driver in terms of Formula E-wise.
Yeah, but come on, Formula... Gio's just not got any pace. 13th, Bottas, Alfa Romeo's, not quick. He took penalties, started last, chilled there all race. Yuki... Just, I didn't... Again, he took a back the grid penalty, couldn't cut through, really, obviously. And then Latifi. I think we've said enough on Nicholas Latifi. Just a poor race.
Yeah.
Qualified 16th. Was pushed up to, 10th? And somehow dropped to 15th, while his team only dropped one position, despite the three lapped cars, the three back markers coming through and past him. So, says it all, really. The only drivers below Latifi were K-Mag and the DNFs. And then Ricciardo. No luck for Danny Rick here. It's a mixture of nothing seems to go well, and Ricciardo's not been quick enough this season.
A good result.
Yeah.
Also, Perez got an extra point fastest lap, by the way. I just remembered that. So.
Again, Red Bull played it to a T. 34 for Red Bull, 30 for Ferrari. They've smashed it. Should we look at the championships?
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some records that could be broken next time out in Singapore. Sorry.
Max can win the World Championship.
Max can win the World Championship in Singapore. He could continue on some records. He's now just 2 away from the record for the most wins in a season. To level that up with Seb and Michael. If he was to get 3, he would win that. And he needs to win the next 4 to break the record for the most consecutive victories. Of course, we do have coming up Singapore, where Ferrari have run strong over the years, but it'll be interesting to see who wins there. Japan, where it's usually a Red Bull win. US, in the last few years, has been a Red Bull victory, especially with Merck not up there now. And Mexico, which is usually a Red Bull win due to the high altitude. Then we head to Brazil, where Max could break that record if he was to get that 10th consecutive victory. But I mean, it'd be amazing if he did it, wouldn't it? I don't see it happening in the modern era, but you never know, do you?
I think
you didn't think it would happen when Seb got 9.
I don't think it will happen, but I think it's now a case of when, not if, Max win the World Championship.
You would imagine so. I think today was the point where Leclerc could turn it around.
If Leclerc wins at Monza, you think, okay, he's closed the gap.
Could take that momentum.
Under 100 points.
Yeah.
He's 116 points off Max Verstappen.
That is quite the gap. It's gone up another 7, hasn't it? Yeah,
last
109
year,
last lap.
between Verstappen and Hamilton was up and down. Obviously, they were tied on points going into the finale. Max is now 116 clear. It's a completely different championship.
And the fact that Leclerc, led by 30 odd points after 3 rounds? Because obviously Max didn't finish Bahrain or Australia. And I know Leclerc's had his reliability issues, and Ferrari have obviously not been able to put together a decent strategy.
It's races like Monaco where Ferrari and Hungary and that where Ferrari got a strategy.
But then equally...
Wrong. But then I also look at races like Saudi where on the track battle or court Max won it.
Yeah, there's 7 points there. You look at France, Leclerc threw away a load of points there. You look at Imola, Leclerc threw a load of points away there. So, as much as Ferrari fans could be aggrieved at the team, Leclerc was also not ready for this championship fight. Maybe they'll come back stronger next year.
I think if you gave Hamilton that Ferrari car, but also the Mercedes strategists, and so if you gave Mercedes that Ferrari car, I think they'd be closer.
I think, yeah, because it will get ugly, wouldn't it? Even then, I don't think Sainz is ready for the battle.
Oh no.
Merck were able to compete because Bottas was ready to be that second driver. He knew his role. Sainz Sainz has got more of a fight in him than a Bottas or a Perez does.
I think also because you look at last year, I think Verstappen wins that championship without Checo Perez. You look at the times that Checo and the same Hamilton would have been in the fight if Bottas hadn't been there for Hamilton. It's that's why having two good drivers. But I don't think Leclerc or Sainz were ready at all. I think it says saying that Sainz is behind George Russell.
Yeah, I mean, let's get into that championship then. Max Verstappen, 335 points, leads by 116 going into the final 6 rounds of the season. Charles Leclerc, 219 then. He now goes 9 points ahead of Perez. Of course, they were tied on, something like that. 198 or something like that. 199? I can't remember.
Something like that.
But, yeah, they... 201, sorry. Perez picked up 9 today, didn't he? 8th and fastest lap. So they're joint 201. There's now 9 points between them. Arguably, even if Perez was on the different strategy, the max he could have got from today is 5th.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's too much of a problem. He could catch that 9 points up and end up coming second in this championship.
Could be a Red Bull whitewash.
It definitely could. P4, George Russell. He's only 7 points behind Perez. If he was to get ahead of Checo, fair fucks, because that Merc has been abysmal at times this season, and there's a potential he gets ahead of Perez. Carlos Sainz then is 16 points ahead of George. Well, you have to say George has as much chance of getting ahead of Leclerc as Checo does. But yeah, Carlos Sainz 16 points behind George Russell.
Poor from Sainz.
That's already a third place away, and
that
I know.
Poor from Sainz.
I mean, you look at Zandvoort. Ferrari just decided to have fun with the tyres. You look at here today, where did Sainz end up? 4th? It's a good result considering the grid penalties, to be fair. But, yeah, Carlos hasn't really been at the races at times. Equally, I mean, he is only 32 points away from Charles. So, it's not a massive gap, really. The comparative to most teammates, the gap between Lewis and Russell is bigger.
Yeah.
35 points there. Lewis Hamilton 168 now. He's 19 points away from Carlos as well. So he's got ground to make up if he wants to finish ahead of Carlos. He very much could do so. But yeah, the top 6, miles clear. Unless Lando can find 80 points in the last 6 races, he will not be finishing ahead of Lewis Hamilton. But I don't think he'll be caught by Esteban Ocon unless he goes on to win a race again. But 22 points separates them. Ocon's now 8th. Fernando Alonso in 9th, 59 points for him. Again, it looks like Alpine will hold on to their 4th in the championship, but I don't think either of them can touch Lando in the drivers. And then 10th, Bottas, 46. The rest haven't really scored points, though I will mention Nick de Vries now sits 20th. Latifi's 21st again in a 20-driver championship. And he's on half the points of Alex Albon. So, I mean, a remarkable debut.
Yeah.
Does it not argue that maybe Williams should just drop Latifi now and see what Nick can do for the final 6?
Can you do that?
Why not? There's no rules.
Just say Latifi's ill.
You just have to buy him out his contract now, rather than wait and let him go on a free at the end.
I think they'll wait until the end of the season.
I think they will, but I mean, if they wanted to try and catch Aston, then they'd stick Nick in that car. Though I don't think they'll make up the 19 points either.
I think Nick got a bit of recovery to do after his radio message at the end of the Grand Prix.
What did he say?
About his shoulders. His shoulders were fucking knackered.
Well, the seatbelt was apparently super tight, so yeah, I mean, the way he opted in and managed to get 2 points, very impressive. But yeah, Zhou goes up a point. He climbs above Lance Stroll. They were level on points, but yeah, Lance now only ahead of those Williams and Hulkenberg. And then you can
the Williams. Yeah, I was laser.
There's 3.
Yeah,
it's like they're in F3.
Yeah.
I mean, Williams nowhere near. They could have 3 cars on the grid and it still wouldn't help them.
No.
So yeah, Daniel Ricciardo, point behind Seb. Neither of them did anything. It's pretty much the same, isn't it, between 10th and 16th. So yeah, constructors then. Red Bull 545 points. They now sit 139 ahead of Ferrari. It's going to take some turnaround for Ferrari to win the constructors, but Red Bull should go back-to-back drivers and win the constructors for the first time since 2012. Ferrari on 406 points, still not out of sight of Mercedes. Mercedes would have to claim 35 points in the remaining 6 rounds, which is definitely doable.
Yeah.
We know they're usually good around the likes of the US. Could they get a result there? Who knows? Then Alpine 125. They've got a decent gap to McLaren now, who are on 107. The McLaren, of course, did close that up today by a further 8 points. They're now over the 100-point mark for the season. 88 of those, of course, from Lando Norris. There's only a gap of 18 there. If McLaren could get a few more results like today, maybe if they could get a double points finish like they should have today, they could catch Alpine. Alfa Romeo, sixth in the championship. They're under no threat from Haas. They're not going to catch McLaren. Their season's pretty much done now. It's about getting Zhou maybe some more good results until the end of the season, and then evaluating who you're going to bring in potentially. All keeping Zhou. Haas, a lot of decision making to be done there, and they're still in a good battle for 7th with AlphaTauri on 33, Aston 9th on 25, Williams 10th on 6. I also like how the Williams team says De Vries and Latifi. That Latifi's contributed any of those points. Yeah. Should be De Vries, Albon and Latifi. Or just De Vries and Albon permanently. As the point scorers.
Ed Hulkenberg.
Yeah. As I said, Singapore in 2 weeks now. Exciting times.
I think that is Ferrari's very last chance to try anything in this try and get anything in this championship.
I disagree.
I think it's long.
That's 3 weeks, by the way. So quite the gap between now and the next race. I don't know. I still think there's a chance.
No, not a chance. Is Max going to throw a 116-point lead?
No. But you never know.
No.
It's Formula 1.
Everyone knows.
It does seem like quite the insurmountable
Unless Sainz goes on a murder mission.
Just take them out, everyone. Yeah. And hopefully penalties doesn't affect Singapore like it's affected Monza and Spa. You wouldn't imagine it would, so yeah. That's probably all now, isn't it? Not much else to discuss. Championship seems to be over. Both championships seem to be over. Still 6 rounds to go. Verstappen chasing records. Leclerc chasing his first win in, what?
Donkey's years.
10 rounds? No, not that much, surely. When was the last time he won a race? I genuinely don't remember the last time Leclerc won a race. It was Austria. So for 5 rounds now. This was his return to the... Oh no, he did get a podium against Netherlands, didn't he? But not enough from him this season, really. Yeah. But yeah, that is all for today. I think the championship might be over, but join us in 3 weeks' time where we'll give our preview for Singapore. Should be a very good race. I'm excited to go back there. Not been to Singapore, and then obviously Japan a week after that. Not been to them in a while. Very excited to return. So join us in 3 weeks' time where we'll be talking about that. We'll have videos out in the meantime. I think we'll probably do a F2 driver lineup prediction.
Possibly.
So if you want to see us guess which random people are going to be in the F2 seats next season, I think we're on a side should have a Premier seat personally. Then look out for that over the next few weeks. But we'll make some content while we wait for Singapore probably. And that is all for today though. Thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.